Greetings, friends. Namaste. Welcome to Lighthouse Yoga. My name is Thomas. Today we're just going to do a short video, 45 minutes or so flow sequence, and we'll get started in Child's Pose. I've linked down in the description box below this video to a playlist on Spotify. You're welcome to use that playlist if you want to have some music for your practice, and we'll meet you on the mat. Starting at the back, you can get yourself set up nice and comfortably, knees soft on the floor, hips to the heels. Of course, you can always give a little padding, some cushion underneath the knees, and we'll meet here with the forehead on the floor. So take your time getting down to the ground and give yourself some little wiggles. You can shift a little bit side to side to get yourself comfortable. Just use this posture as a way to tune in. So welcome the breath, inhaling and exhaling. Sometimes we feel the pressure and the release of the breathing on the abdomen, the thighs, a little restricted. So we could focus on more of the length of the torso, extending the spine a little bit longer, hips a little bit farther back, the head a little farther forward. Just a few more breaths. And of course, if this feels uncomfortable for the ankles, for the knees, you can always modify. Offer a little bit of pressure to the elbows, give some support from the forearms. If you'd like to place any dedication or offer intention for your practice, your own sense of purpose, something that motivates you, something that helps you to come back if you get distracted, kind of mental anchor. Just breathe into that notion, that sentiment. From here, we'll make our way onto the hands and knees. Give yourself time to come up. You know, if it's early in the morning, sometimes things are a little creaky. If it's late in the day, you might be quite ready to move. So with the hands supported underneath the shoulders, the knees beneath your hips, we'll look forward to our cow pose. Let the tail feathers tilt, take a deep breath in. When you exhale, we'll scoop and round the back, chin to the chest, cat pose. And we start to get into a rhythm here with the breathing influencing the body. Lungs full as you're looking forward, cow pose. Start that tucking of the tail, scoop the pelvis as you exhale, and finishing your pose as you finish the breath. So we'll make a couple trips front to back, inhaling to arch and exhaling to round. And for the sake of our practice, you never need to stay with my voice. I always feel the rhythm of your body, the rhythm of your breath as your guide. For transitions, you can always take an extra breath before you transition if you need to. So just one more pass back and forth. And the next time that you're looking forward, we'll make our transition to downward facing dog. So as you look up, crawl the hands a little bit further forward. Lean to the palms to set the feet with the toes tucked under. We'll bring the knees and the hips to the sky. And lots of ways to get here. And once you arrive, we'll pedal the feet in place for a moment. You can alternate that pressure from one heel to the other, waking up those calves, hamstrings, of course. And after a couple little pedals back and forth, we'll steady the legs strong and straight. Let the tail feathers rise a little bit higher. I like to bring in a little bit of chair pose. So lifting the heels, bend your knees slightly so you have kind of a half squat position to the legs. I'll give you a little more length in the spine, a little higher to the pelvis. And then from there, see if you can straighten your legs, keeping the hips nice and high. And then we'll shift forward into our plank pose. So as you look to the palms, we'll glide forward. And take a moment here to level off, keeping the hips even with the shoulders, maybe looking forward, legs nice and straight. Give your body a deep breath in. And on your exhalation, we'll lower to the ground. You can use your knees or lower as one piece. Bending the elbows, we'll find our Cobra Pose. Point your toes, roll the shoulders back, and raise the heart. Firm the thighs, firm the buttocks. Take a deep breath in. And we'll exhale to lower the abdomen. Curl the toes. You can lift from your knees. We'll rise downward facing dog. Hips up and back. Take a moment to adjust the feet. And just a couple breaths more here. Feeling nice and solid on your hands, the fingers bright, palms rooted. And we're going to look to the hands and walk forward, small steps. You can walk your hands back to your feet just as well, your feet up to your hands. And getting your legs underneath you, let yourself hang in the forward bend. We call it Uttanasana. Rocking a little bit front to back, heels and toes, just to give yourself a sense of the balance, possibilities. And then stay back in your heels for a moment. If you can straighten the legs a little more. And then lift your fingers just an inch off the floor to twirl the wrists. Give the hands a little motion. You can curl the fingers, the knuckles can get creative, and then reversing the circle of the wrists. Give it a couple more rotations, and maybe the elbows want to get in on the action. We'll steady the relax the wrists, raising the hands to the hips. Find a nice flat back to stand. So as you bend the knees a little bit, it'll give you more strength in the hips. Rising up as you hinge from the pelvis, and we'll stand all the way. If you need to take a couple steps forward as I do to get to the top of your mat, please join me here in mountain pose. We'll turn the palms open to the front. So the thumbs are pointing out to the side. The inner elbow is kind of looking forward, and a little squeeze between the shoulder blades, standing nice and tall at attention. We're going to circle the arms up and overhead. Looking up, take a deep breath in. With your exhalation, we'll circle the arms, let the hips go back in space. Taking the hands to the shins, we'll find monkey pose. Feel the length as you breathe in. And as you exhale, we'll step the left foot and the right foot back, one after another to plank. Hold for just a moment, balance the hands, even the hips. Take a deep breath in. Exhale to the floor. You can use your knees, bend the elbows. Cobra pose will stay low. Point the toes and firm the thighs. Chest high, take a look up as you inhale. Downward facing dog, we're on our way, curling the toes, hips to the sky. Give it a breath. Your hips like the roof of a house, nice and tall to that peak. We're going to step the left foot and then the right foot to the front, one after another. And monkey pose when you get there. Ardha Uttanasana, the hands to shins as you inhale halfway up. Exhale like you could dive down, reaching into the floor. And then standing from there, circle the arms, press into the feet. We'll join the hands and take them down to the heart. Pause for a moment, mountain pose proper, the palms facing forward, the thumbs pointing to the side. Circle the arms up as you inhale with a little back bend at the top. Circle the arms wide, hips back in space as you exhale. Hands to your shins, just halfway lifting, full breath. Right foot, left foot will step back, plank pose. Balance the hips, looking forward, balance the shoulders. If you can, keep the legs straight as you lower, one piece to the floor, or continue to use your knees. Toes pointing, chest rising, thighs nice and firm as you look up. Downward facing dog, we're lifting the hips, use your knees. Just a breath here. We're stepping the right foot and then the left foot to the top. Just halfway up when you get there, hands to shins, feel the length. Exhale, diving like you could reach into the floor. And then we'll stand, circling the arms. Hands together and down to your heart, arms by your side. If you need to step forward, cover the ground to start fresh at the top of the mat. A little squeeze between your shoulder blades, straighten the elbows, and then we'll circle up. Big breath in, hips back as you exhale, that swan dive to the fold. halfway lifting as you inhale, and then it's left foot, right foot to plank. Lowering down one piece or use your knees. Cobra Pose. You can feel a little bit towards that upward dog if you're ready, that stronger and bigger back bend. Downward facing dog will rise from the floor, from the knees. Left foot, right foot to the top of your mat, just halfway up when you get there. Exhaling like you can reach into the floor before you stand all the way up. We'll take the hands together and do one more. Arms by your side, just a moment to start. Top of your mat, mountain pose. Circle the arms, big breath in. Folding with your exhalation, heart leads the way. Hands to your shins. And then it's right foot, left foot, plank pose. We'll step back. Almost as soon as you get there, you can lower down and keep the palms flat. Cobra Pose, if you're feeling it. Downward facing dog will move along. Keep your breath in flow, right foot, left foot to the top. Standing strong, we'll circle the arms. Hands together and down to your heart. Let it rest, top of your mat. Bringing your feet a little bit closer together, taking your thumbs to the creases at the front of your hips. We're gonna sit down just for a second in our chair pose. Thumbs kind of making a permanent impression into that crease at the front of the pelvis. We're gonna straighten the legs as we stand up, circle the arms overhead. If you can, you're gonna grab the opposite elbow, the opposite forearm, somewhere along the wrist perhaps. Lean a little bit to your left. Breathing, and I'm just turned to the side so you can see me here. So we'll come up and shift to the right. You can kind of push the elbows out, the fingers gripping tightly. Good. Keep the arms overhead as you return to the center. We're going to bend the knees. Imagine you still had your thumbs in those creases, and then we'll slide the arms apart into goddess pose. The palms facing forward, the elbows out wide. We're going to straighten the legs, reach over top, grab your elbows. We're going to the left. Breathing in and breathing out. Keep everything the same with the arms. We're going to the right. Keep breathing as you return to the center. Find your squat first, and then separate the arms, goddess. Now a little change here. We're going to straighten the legs and stretch the arms for the side. Top of the monkey pose, take a deep breath in. Exhale to fold forward, and then hands to the shins. Big breath into your monkey pose. We'll step the left foot back. Keep the right foot where it is, your left knee on the floor. Now we're gonna rise up, keep the back foot tucked under, arms overhead. You can certainly walk it up to your front knee first, and then join us here. Looking up if the balance is there. See if you can grip the floor with your back foot. Take one more big breath in, and we'll exhale the hands to the ground. Now we're stepping forward for the time being. Lift your knee, push into both feet. Hands to your shins coming up halfway. We'll step the right foot back, low lunge. Take your knee to the ground. Keep the toes tucked under, arms overhead. Again, you can walk it to your thigh. Look to the fingers. Feel the back leg strong. That right glute has a wonderful role to play. Big breath in. Exhale the hands to the floor. Lift the back knee to step forward. You can also lift the hips and straighten the front leg using a little more of the momentum. Hands to shins halfway. Exhale to dive into the fold, and then we'll stand all the way. Circle the arms to the top, the hands coming together and down to your heart. Arms by your side for a moment, a little squeeze between the shoulder blades. Circle the arms up, grab your opposite elbow. We're gonna lean to the left, breathing steady. Rising through the center, we're gonna lean to the right, breathing steady. Return to the center, squatting, Utkatasana, we bend the knees. Arms go free, goddess pose. Keep your butt back in space as you stretch the arms wide, the legs straighten, monkey. Take a deep breath in. Exhale into the fold. Step your left foot back, high lunge. Keep your knee lifted. Each foot has its own lane, arms overhead. You can walk it to your knee. You can bring it up to your thigh, and we'll meet you here, arms overhead. And again, that back leg is key. Lift the heel, firm the buttocks. Take a deep breath in, and we'll exhale the hands to the floor. We're stepping forward once again, hands to your shins when you get there. Feel the length. Your right foot is gonna step back, high lunge, toes straight ahead. Each foot has its own path, arms overhead. Find your balance. You can find a point in front of you that's not moving, somewhere fixing your vision, maybe looking up to your fingers. Firm that right thigh, one more full breath in. Exhale your hands to the floor. We're stepping forward. Lift the hips a little bit, use the momentum, hands to your shins. Exhale into the fold before you stand all the way. We'll circle the arms. Hands together and down to your heart. We'll let it rest for a moment. Step the feet together. Circle the arms overhead. Grab your opposite elbow. Sometimes the other arm might be able to go on top, so you can play around with that from time to time. We'll lean to the left. When rising to the center, we'll lean to the right. Breathing steady, goddess pose, and then we'll squat, or as we squat, that flying monkey pose, I like to call it. Spread your wings, hips back as you inhale, tabletop position. Exhale into the fold. Step your left foot back, please. This is warrior one. Turn that left foot flat, anchor the heel, and rising up, arms overhead. Looking to your fingers if you've got the balance. Straighten your right leg, turn to the side, arms out shoulder height. Look to your right hand, bend your right knee. Warrior two, just a moment, flip your right hand open, and then we'll lean backwards. Reversing warrior two, the left hand to your thigh. That right arm can stay vertical by your cheek, or bending your elbow crescent moon over your head, reaching for the back of your space. And we're going to return to warrior two. Breath in and level off as you breathe out. Just a moment here. Now, keeping the arms long from palm to palm, a straight line, we're going to circle the left arm overhead all the way to the floor. Your right arm is going to end up in the air. You can turn to look right, up at your thumb. Now, that back foot is still on the floor. However, you could lift your heel into the runner's lunge, and that'll give you a little more space. Give it a deep breath in. Exhale your right hand to the floor, and we're stepping back from this one, downward facing dog, hips to the sky. Take a moment to find your spacing. You can keep it simple with the earlier vinyasa, otherwise plank pose, lowering, hovering from the floor, chaturanga dandasana. Your upward facing dog, balancing on the tops of the feet and the heart full. Right? Just the hands and feet on the floor, firm the thighs to lift the hips, strong through the core as you come back, downward facing dog. And of course, if you're coming from the floor from Cobra, use your knees. Left foot, right foot to the top, walking or jumping works beautifully. Hands to the shins just halfway, and then it's the right foot stepping back, and this is warrior one. Turn the heel. You've got time to set your foundation, arms overhead. You can walk it up to your thigh. Perhaps looking up to the fingers. Great job. And straighten your left leg, turn to the side. This is warrior two. So take your time as you level off through the arms, then bend your knee. Looking at your left hand, turn the palm open. So rotating that arm as you lean back. Right hand to your thigh, to your calf. That left arm can stay vertical or curl back over your head. If you can, keep that right knee nice and straight. Anchor that right foot straight down into the floor. Returning warrior two, keep your knee bent, arms out level. And you could almost imagine a board across your back from wrist to wrist. So as we cartwheel over, that right arm circles all the way to the floor. And don't think too much about it. That left arm ends up in the air, reaching for the ceiling. You can keep that right heel flat, or Raise that right heel and you find the length of your high lunge. Maybe looking up at your thumb, give it a full breath in. Exhale your left hand to the ground. We're stepping back, downward facing dog. Making some changes here. First, shifting forward to plank. Lower the knees only and walk your hands to your knees. Standing on the knees, we'll find the camel variation. You can keep the toes tucked under, a little padding for your knees, of course. Knuckles to the pelvis, so the palms are open, and I like to call pancake style, so stacked one on top of the other. Lower your chin into that little notch between your collarbones. Leaning back, firm your buttocks. Press the pelvis forward slightly as you look up. Maybe you're going to tip your head all the way back. Rather than trying to go so far back in your back bend, breathe into the abdomen. So we're testing the abdominal wall as we're holding the pose and trying to allow for that steady fluctuation of the breath. You're going to use your inhalation to stand up and exhale to fold, hands and then elbows to the floor. With your forearms on the ground, join the hands, interlacing the fingers. The elbows can crawl in a little bit, sort of a narrow triangle. With the toes tucked under now, we'll lift the knees, dolphin pose, sort of like downward dog on your elbows. And our earlier tip of lifting the heels and bending the knees, right? That gives us a little bit of that chair pose to negotiate some of the pressure. Look up at your thumbs and walk your feet backwards. As you walk the legs back, you can straighten your knees, and we're going to end up in a low plank, forearm plank, core plank, sometimes called, although that's kind of confusing, but we're going to keep the hips even with the shoulders. For safety's sake, you could lift the hips and tuck the tail, cat pose, right? But that doesn't give us everything that we could have. Right? If we can maintain a strong neutral, not quite cow pose, not quite cat pose, but an intention of pressing firm into the elbows and maybe looking out forward beyond the thumbs. We can keep the knees nice and straight and energetically reach back through the heels. Thinking about the breathing inside out, right? Challenging the muscles with a little bit of those deeper breaths. You can certainly breathe quickly here. The muscles will appreciate that nourishment. Just one more breath. We'll use the exhalation to lower the knees and the hips. Good. Step the elbows forward. Make a little pillow for your forehead, resting your wrist on your forearms. Your forehead on your wrists. We'll bend both knees, bringing the heels toward the hips. Circle the ankles for a moment. Going in one way, can wiggle your toes. And then reverse the ankles going around the other way. You could keep the toes wiggling. Slow the rotation down. And then eventually to a stop. We'll swing the calves side to side. And as you put the legs in rotation, right, feel the thighs moving in the hip joint, right? The pelvic socket having a strong influence on the muscles in the lower back and the hips. If you want to add a little bit more to this action, lift your head and raise the chest, a little bit of our Cobra Pose or Sphinx Pose. Keeping the legs in motion, press the thighs into the floor. And initially it feels like it's the front of the thighs, but since the thighs are rolling, we notice the pressure outer and inner thigh, strong from the hips, strong from the groin. So one more time each way. And then we'll slow it down to bring the feet to the middle, eventually lowering the toes to the floor. For a moment, return your head to the wrists and let it rest. Just breathing into the ground. And very carefully lift your head. We're going to move the hands near the chest, push the floor away from you. Rising up strong, crawl the knees forward a little bit, and it's downward facing dog eventually. So once the hands are set, the toes are curled, we'll lift the hips. Take a moment to negotiate. Everything we just did on the floor is going to show up here in your downward dog. And from this one, we're going to walk forward. So again, baby steps, getting your feet up to your hands. You can walk your hands back to your feet. Rock back a little bit into the heels, hands to your hips, and we'll stand. Head first, shoulders back. We'll rise all the way up. We take a moment to pause, just a breath here. Separate your feet. So we're going to turn the toes out. So kind of a V shape to the feet on the mat. You might even have your heels on the side edges. And then we'll stretch the arms up and overhead. Grab your right wrist. Take it high and to the left. Hips can swing a little bit to the right. It's okay. Good. We'll lift up to the center and switch the hands. Grab your left wrist. Up, up, and over to the right. Hips out to the left, maybe just a tiny bit. Breathing easy. Good. Now we're going to return to the center. Take the arms out, goddess pose. Bend your knees, holding the squat. So with the toes turned out, the knees are also fanning outwards. Good. Now we're going to straighten the legs and straighten the arms. Lean to your left. Pick up your right knee. Lower your right elbow. Straighten your legs, straighten your arm, find the balance in the center and squat. Rise up high. The right arm is going to reach, the left knee, the left elbow come together. So that right side is long. Good. Lower your foot, straighten your arm, bend both knees, bend both elbows. Rise up, take a breath in. Right side lifting and coming together, elbow and knee. Inhale the arm up. Exhale, find both feet flat into the squat. Inhale up. It's left side coming together, elbow and knee. Inhale to extend. Exhale to squat. Rise up, inhale. Exhale, right side squeezing. You go a little faster. Breathing in, find the squat with both feet. Breathing out. Breathing in to come up, left side comes together. Breathing out, breathing in. Breathing out, breathing in. It's right side, breathing out, breathing in. Squat, exhaling, inhaling. It's left side, breathing out, breathing in. Feet on the floor, breathing out, breathing in. It's right side, breathing out. A little higher. Breathing in, breathing out. Last time, left side, breathing out, breathing in. Last time to your squat. Now we'll hold here. Look to the floor, swing your arms behind you. Interlace your fingers and reach down and back through the knuckles. Straighten your legs for a moment. Lift your chin as you inhale. Fold it forward. Arms away from your body as you exhale, the knuckles into the air. Sit back into your heels and find just a little shadow of that chair pose, that goddess pose we were just working with. Turn your head to the right, swing your arms a little bit to the left. Breathing steady. Turn your head to look left, swing your arms to the right. Stay with your breathing. And bring your arms to the center, head to the center, your arms to your body. Release your hands to the floor and then walk your hands over to the right side of your yoga mat. Swing your hips to the left and bend your left knee. Sit back into that left heel. Your right hand is going to lift to your hip. Turn your chest to look past your shoulder, your right arm up to the sky. Turn your chest, turn your belly button to the right, just a little farther. Take a deep breath in. Exhale your right hand down to the ground. Walk your hands over to the left, swing your hips to the right. Sit into that right heel, bend your right knee a lot. Left hand to your hip, turn your chest first and then raise your arm. So just set that shoulder up for success. Turn your belly button to the left. Give it a deep breath in. Exhale your left hand to the floor. Walking the hands to the center. Walk your feet heel toe to the center. Hands to your shins now, just halfway up. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, lower, step your left foot back. This is warrior one. Turn your heel flat, arms up and overhead. Straightening your right leg, we're opening to the left side. This is triangle pose. So give it a moment as you level the shoulders. Look at your right hand and gliding through space. That right hand to your ankle, to the floor, or maybe you've got a block handy. You could take a block to the outside of that ankle. Left arm to the ceiling, maybe looking up at that top hand. Bending your right knee just a tiny bit will give you lots more power out of the thighs. Your left arm is going to make a big circle overhead to the floor, and we're stepping back into our downward dog. Bend your front knee, the hips to the sky. You've got time. Plank pose, you can move through our traditional vinyasa or chaturanga in your upward dog if you're feeling those bigger movements, ready for those bigger back bends. Right. We'll come back downward facing dog. From your downward dog, we're going to step the left foot and then the right foot, one after another to the top. Halfway up, hands to your shins, and then we'll step the right foot back. Warrior one, anchor that right heel, we'll stand up. Looking to the fingers, your left leg straight. Open to the right side, the arms out level. Looking at your left hand, triangle pose, we'll draw the hips back. Fingers out to your ankle, to the floor, or to your block. You can turn to look to the side wall or up at your top hand. That right foot really making a point to anchor into the floor, and your left knee can bend just a fraction of an inch. Just a little bit more power from the hips and the groin. Big circle with your breath, that right arm overhead to the floor, and we're stepping back, downward facing dog. From here, take a moment to level, balance the feet, balance the hips. We'll shift into plank for our camel pose. Lower the knees once again. Walk the hands to your hips. So as you crawl back, standing up, you can keep the toes tucked under, and you'll have the option to bring your hands to your feet if you want it. Start the same way, those pancake style hands. Chin to your chest as we did before, press the hips forward. Fan the elbows back, one at a time. You can bring your hands to your heels. Shoulder blades together, you might look up. You can tip your head all the way back. We could imagine those inner eyes of the elbows looking out, away from the center. Right elbow looking to the right, left elbow looking to the left. 2 more breaths into your belly. Firm the buttocks, firm the thighs. When you're ready, your inhalation brings you up. Exhaling to lower, hands and then forearms. Point your toes if you haven't already. Give a little pitter patter to the tops of your feet. You can do that as long as you like, as loud as you like, but we'll let it rest. And then swing your hips side to side. Try to keep your hips over your knees. So even though they're going wide to the right and wide to the left, we feel like the pelvis is in line with the knees as we go side to side. Hopefully that clarifies some things. And then we'll pause in the center, doing what we call puppy pose. Keep the hips over the knees. The tail feathers are slightly tilted. We're going to walk the hands forward and lower the forehead to the floor. Now, for some of us, we need to keep the elbows on the ground. Others of us, we might have the elbows perfectly straight. Most of us, it's the forehead on the floor. Some of us can bring the bridge of the nose on the ground. If you can bring your chin or even your chest on the floor, that would exhibit a lot of flexibility in the thoracic spine. So, go for it if you can, but by no means is that required. Breathing to the inner thighs. Draw your belly button closer to your spine. Feel your lower abdomen a little cavernous toward the groin. One more breath here. You can always put your elbows down sooner than later. Slide your hands back one at a time. Use those hands to push the floor away as you rise. Cat and cow, just a couple cycles. So as soon as you arrive on hands and knees, tuck the tail, chin to the chest, cat pose. Breathing in, cow pose. We'll tilt the tail, lungs full as you look forward. We'll give it one more, rounding to the exhalation, cat. Arching to the inhalation, cow. Downward facing dog is where we'll meet. Walk the hands forward, curl the toes. Knees and hips to the sky, and give it a couple breaths. We're on our way to pigeon pose. So we'll take the right leg up and into the air. For a moment, turn the hips open on the right side. You can bend your right knee. Keeping that right knee bent, swing it forward toward your right wrist. Look forward for a moment, swing your shin to the left, and then put it down on the floor. So that right knee is still behind your wrist near that side edge of your mat. Walk the left knee to the floor and then back and back, inch by inch. Take the hands out wide, raise the torso over the hips, right? Shoulders over the pelvis. Now, looking over your left shoulder, line up your leg parallel with the edge of your mat. Turn to look over your right shoulder, square up the hips. Turning to face forward, we'll lower the elbows. Forearms to the floor. You can make that little pillow with your forearms for your forehead. Feel the length. Right? Many of us in this pose are leaning to the right. So centering the hips, you kind of shift them to the left. Sometimes a block under the right hip or a blanket wedged underneath that thigh will go a long way to taking pressure out of the joint. However, that sometimes moves the stretch kind of into an elusive place. So see what works best for you. We'll hang out here for about another 30 seconds. You don't need to count, just breathe. Feel the length to the spine as you inhale and exhale. We imagine the diaphragm muscle moving along the torso, right? Toward the hips, toward the shoulders with its fluctuations. Always helping us to gather more extension. Two more breaths. Before we dismount, stay low on the back foot, curl the toes underneath and raise your left knee for a second. You can energetically lean through that left heel, sort of like someone was holding on your ankle and dragging you backwards. One more breath as you look forward. Exhale to lower that left knee, rise to your hands. Use the palms, that left knee walking forward. Your two hands to the top of your mat and that left foot create the foundation so the right leg can lift without too much fanfare. Up into the sky. Feel free to straighten your knee, turn the hips open. Give that right ankle a little twirl. We'll meet in downward facing dog. So before too long, the right foot to the ground. You can stay in your downward dog, just a few breaths to even things out. Otherwise, keeping it dynamic, the plank pose to the floor, your cobra, your upward facing dog, as we breathe through the vinyasa. Right? Not required, just for fun. If it feels good, feels right, go for it. Second side to our pigeon, the downward facing dog to start, left leg back and up into the air. Turn the hips open, bend your left knee, try to raise that knee to the ceiling. Look to the hands as you swing the left knee forward, keeping it in the air, hovering as you move your shin to the right and then place it on the floor. The right knee down, walk the hands wide, moving that right leg back and back and back. Take a peek over your right shoulder. You can line your leg up parallel with the edge of your mat. Looking over your left shoulder, plug that right thigh into the socket. Facing forward, we'll lower to the elbows. supported on the forearms. Feel the length. Closing the eyes, relax your jaw. You can use the wrists to make a pillow, maybe a block under your forehead. This is a wonderful option too. I'm still here. I'm just giving you time to breathe. Again, you can visualize the diaphragm muscle moving up and down from the hips to the shoulders, giving you more length through the spine. Last couple of breaths. The right foot, you could tuck the toes under and raise the knee. It feels like someone was holding onto that ankle, drawing you backwards. Firm the thigh a little bit. Maybe looking forward in contrast. If this is too much, you can always put that right knee on the floor again. Right knee down. Rise to your hands. Walk the right leg forward, forward, and a little farther forward. So your two hands and that right leg lifting, the left leg without a sound comes up off the ground. Take it high into the sky, turn the hips open. Left foot to the floor. And last vinyasa, optional still. If you're going plank pose to the floor, keep your breath with you. We'll rise to our upward dog, staying in cobra if that's right for you. And we'll meet back in downward facing dog. If you want to stay with the pattern, it's right foot, left foot to the top of the mat. Otherwise, tiptoe to the hands. When you get your legs underneath you, please lift your heels and we're going to squat down. Find the squat with the hands on the floor for support or hands to the knees. Shoulders over the hips. Firm the thighs. So push the calves and the hamstrings together. So there's just a little bit of a lift out of the ankles, little challenge to the balance. Right? We can lower the fingers and then sit down. You could do this no-handed. You just reach forward and let go. Grab hold of the thighs. We'll rock front to back a few times. And we're going to stay on the ground, knees to the chest, and giving your legs a little hug. Shoulders and head to the floor. You can rock a little bit side to side. Negotiating that pressure with the arms, hugging the knees closer to the chest. Or perhaps loosening the pressure, the knees floating away from the abdomen, a little over the hips. Pause in the center, bringing both of your hands to your right knee. Straighten your left leg out and down to the floor. Swing the right arm out to the side along the ground. And we're twisting. The right leg is coming across the body, over to the left. If you'd like, you can roll all the way onto that left hip. For some of us, the right foot is okay, just kind of hanging out in space. Others of us, we might put that right foot on the left thigh, or even tuck the big toe behind the knee. And keeping the shoulders down, lift the chest. That right knee and right shoulder kind of in a teeter-totter relationship. You can look up toward the ceiling and close the eyes. Sometimes turning the head to the right is just a little bit too much. There's a little bit of a back bend in the lower back. So again, keep the shoulders down, the chest lifting, and you feel like you could arch the low back. Give it just one more breath. Your left hand can lower down to scoop up your knee, rolling onto your back. Bring both knees to your chest. So knees to your chest, rocking a little bit side to side. And switching sides, hands to your left leg, your right leg out and down to the ground, your left arm out to the side, your left leg across your body. Finding that rotation. Again, your left leg can just kind of hang out in space, or place that inner ankle on your thigh, your big toe behind your knee. And breathing through the length. That left knee, left shoulder, get on that teeter-totter dynamic. Shoulders down, chest high. Try to feel the length on both sides of the body. You could arch the back a little more. Just a couple more breaths. Relax your jaw, your forehead. Your right hand scooping up your leg, rolling to your back, knees to your chest, head toward your knees. We'll rock a little bit. Nice and carefully, lowering the feet, lowering your shoulders, lowering your head. With your hands on your thighs, bring the knees together and then separate the feet, just a heel toe action to separate the feet to the edges of the mat. And once the knees are set, sort of supporting each other on the midline, hands to the floor, you can slide the arms a little bit away from your body. So we call this the crooked corpse pose. It's a nice option for the lower back. If you prefer, you can extend your legs straight to the ground. Heels toward the corners of the mat. Toes can lean out. And we'll rest here for a couple minutes. There's nothing you need to do. There's nowhere you need to go. Just breathing in and breathing out. Getting a sense of gravity on your arms and legs, your hips and shoulders. Just allowing your body to release a little bit more deeply into the earth. Relaxing your facial muscles, your chin, your jaw, your cheeks. Relaxing your forehead and the top of your head. Feeling like you could let go from the very top of your head. Experiencing your entire being very much alive and very deeply at rest.
For a longer Shavasana, please feel free to pause the video.
Allowing your body to remain still, returning your awareness to your breathing, feeling your inhalations and your exhalations, sense of your body and its place in space. Expanding your inhalations, feeling stronger with your exhalations. Sending your breath down to your feet, imagining your breath helping to wiggle the toes. Breathing through your arms into your hands, wiggling fingers, perhaps pressing your thumbs to your fingerprints. Softly rolling your head side to side. Imagine your breath traveling to your hair beyond the top of your head. With bigger movements, stretching the arms overhead along the floor. You can extend your legs, pointing and flexing the feet, kind of alternating the pedals. Right arm, left arm, as if climbing a ladder, reaching behind you. And perhaps just another breath. And then we'll settle that motion, walking the feet in one at a time, bringing the knees to the chest, giving your legs a hug. Again, feel free to roll side to side. And then making your way to sitting, you can roll to one side, and then use the arms to help push you up. And however you arrive here is great. We'll meet in a cross-legged seat, some variation. We'll join the hands at the heart in closing. A moment here to acknowledge within yourself and within all beings that which is peace, that is joy, that is love, and that is light, residing inside of this space with both the knowledge and the experience that we are all one. And to that light we bow. Namaste. Thank you so very much for watching and practicing. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Send me a note. I'd love to hear from you. And thanks again. Take care. Peace.